Right, so it is New Year's Eve. Do a quick video out in the garden here. We're really going to be looking at some of the really tender palms and see how they're done through the cold spell we had and see how they look now. So any damage occurred from the -3/4 we had is starting to show up. But yeah, so we've got the very basic shelter over the arid bed. We've had 50-mile-per-hour winds, and believe it or not, that's held up okay. I have uncovered the power Cadoria just because it's been so mild lately. There's no point having that covered up when it's as warm as it have been, and that's ready to go. So if we do get some more frosts, which I'm sure we will do, I think they're talking about maybe middle of January we could get a cold spell, so that'll just have the fleece bag chucked over it again at that point. But as for this really mild weather we're having, that'll stay open. So yeah, no damage to the fronds with the -3/4 we had. Still looking as good as when it was delivered to me. Right, so we're going to be looking at some the more tender palms. So the palm we did have an issue with last year was the Dwarf edulis. So we have got a cover over it, and we can see the fronds that are sticking out at -3/4 we had. And I say 3/4 because it's, according to my sensors, that was 3, and all my weather app said 3, but I believe it's probably a little bit colder than that. It's probably close to 4 in certain areas. But we can see, yeah, we've got damage on the end of the fronds, but just where the cover was, we can see they're absolutely fine. So we know around -3 you're going to start getting damage, you know, in an exposed area. But just a little bit of shelter, and that makes a world of difference. One that hasn't fared so well, and a lot of these were planted at the beginning of the year, so this is the last day of the year now. So these were planted sort of in the spring, early summer, and they're experimental. I didn't expect them to come through unscathed, but I wouldn't have planted them unless I thought they might have survived. But let's get straight into it. So we've got a Cadoria palm, which, what we've done is we've got a little pop-up greenhouse over it, so that's been on it since the beginning of well, middle of autumn, say. The door's been open all the time, so there's plenty of airflow in there, and we've had fleece wrapped around the trunk. But as we can see, all the foliage has browned off, and I'm not surprised. Like I say, even with shelter at -3/4, Cadoria palm will take damage. I don't think it's going to die because the petiole, all the petioles are still green, and the spear is still green. Just the leaves that are out, you know, they've all browned off. So not surprising, but I don't think it's dead. I think it will survive, but it'll just be a lot of damage. Right, so working along the border here, got another couple of really sort of tender palms. So we're looking at the Nico palm first. So this is the New Zealand palm, and this has taken damage, and I could have gone more to keep it looking good, but I wanted to see what its limits were. So what I have done now is put some heat cable around it. But when we had that cold week at the end of November, we were getting minuses for 5 or 6 nights, and like I say, a couple of them were probably -3 or 4. So this has got fleece wrapped around a trunk, and I did have a fleece bag over it over that week period of frosts, and we have got a shelter over it as well. And I still took damage. So it's not, didn't actually get a frost as such, but it got minus. So we can see we have got damage to the fronds. They're not totally dried up browned, So there's a little bit of green on them, but they are permanently damaged. Unfortunately, the new one is damaged as well. But as we can see closer into the crown, there's still a good green there. So I know the palm's not dead, but it has took a lot of damage, and next year, if it survives the rest of winter, we will have a heat cable on it from the start. And so what a heat cable will do is I can put a fleece bag over that now with the heat cable on it, and that'll just keep it above freezing, so that shouldn't take any damage like it has done. So this is a learning curve for me, and also might be interesting to anyone else who's growing tender palms. There's a difference between surviving and you know, looking good. So this really was just an experiment. I've grown this, not this actual palm, but the same species for several years, and as long as they don't get frosted, they do okay over winter. But I've never actually had one outside in the ground, so this is a experiment for me, and hopefully it'll help other people out as well. So the Livingstone chinensis is done rather well. -3/4, as they say, and any damage you've seen it already had on it, which is from last winter. But yeah, under the shelter again, and the trunks are fleeced. But as we can see, the foliage itself underneath the shelter there, no damage on that, so I'm quite impressed with that really. That's done really well. Right, so another experimental tender palm. So we've got the Oranga angleri, which is the dwarf sugar palm. So again, this has got a little pop-up greenhouse over it, and it has got the trunk wrapped, and I've left it wrapped because it's dry. If this was exposed and out in the open and that was a wet fleece, then I definitely wouldn't have it on there for too long, but because it's under shelter, I'll leave that on over the winter period. As long as it's dry, that's not going to, you know, promote crown rot or anything like that. So let's get in and have a little bit closer look. So this is a palm that already had damage on it, and to be fair, that's about the damage it had on it before. So the fronds aren't looking brilliant, but that was more sunburn than it was actual cold damage, and there's still plenty of green on that, and we have got a spear coming out the centre, so hopefully come spring that'll come back to life. This is a very slow growing palm, so we're just trying to minimise any damage, winter damage. So these are allegedly hardy to about -6, but again, just because they're hardy to -6 doesn't mean they take damage at less than -6. So you know, again, I wouldn't have planted if I didn't think that'd survive, but you know, I'm well aware it's probably going to take damage in the cold times we get. Right, so we've got a couple more to look at, and I will say most things are looking pretty good. The Cadoria radicalis, so a hardy parlour palm, that's that looking untouched, totally flawless. Yes, it's underneath the canopy, natural canopy of a lot of other plants, and it does get sun in winter but shade in summer, so that's looking rather good. And I'm very pleased that, you know, at -4 I'm seeing no damage at that, and this is a month, well over a month after we had them freezes. Another Cadoria here. This is a microspadix, and again, at the moment, no damage. So the oldest frond has got some damage, but that was from last winter and the winter before. So I've grown this from a very small seedling basically, and they're always going to be slow growing. But this is like a little bamboo palm, but they are fairly hardy. These are supposed to be hardy, again down to about -6, and at the moment we had pretty close to -4 and no visible damage on that, which is good. Right, so we're sort of coming to the last one I want to do a video on, and again it's under a shelter, held up nicely to the wind, the shelter itself that is. Let's see if we can get in and get a good angle on it. So we're looking at the queen palm, but it is the mountain form. I'll see if I can get a bit closer for you without falling in the pond, because sort of stones and small rocks along here, so I don't really want to be falling over, but here we go. Nearly went. Right, so I've got a sago palm there which I meant to bring in, just potted, but it's looking okay. So the queen palm itself opened up its first pinnate frond over summer. So that's going to be the most tender part of the foliage, and that's looking at the moment flawless. So at -4 with just that shelter, it's looking really good. And some of the older leaves are still looking good as well. So yeah, can't really fault that at the moment. So again, this is a month on from the freezers, so we're not saying, you know, we had a frost last night and it's still looking good, because a lot of palms won't show damage for a month or two after. But yeah, this is well over a month after and looking absolutely fine. We'll have a look at the smaller palms around here while we're at it. So we've got the saw palm head over there. Never looked particularly good for me, but it is alive and it is pushing out new growth, albeit very slowly. We've got a needle palm there. I can see on the very oldest leaf there's a slight bit of discoloration, but in general that's looking pretty good. And the other side we've got a small sable minor, which is looking very similar to the needle palm at the moment. You know, pretty much untouched. I don't expect it to be a pretty tough little palm. Alright, so that is a look at some of the sort of experimental, really tender palms. And to be fair, it's exactly what I expected. We've got some damage on some, but I don't think any of them are outright dead, and that just gives me a bit of knowledge how to tackle things next year. And if I want to, like with the knee cow palm, if I want to keep that flawless, I'll be having a heat cable on that over the winter on a thermostat, so obviously it only comes on the cold nights, and hopefully next year we can get it through winter without any damage. At least we know its limits now. And then going back to the Kentia palm, which we know is a house plant but can take cool temperatures, but obviously when we're talking minus temperatures, it's not ever going to be happy. But I think it will survive, but that's not one I'm going to be concerned about. I'm not be wrapping a heat cable around that. That'll just recover slowly, and you know, that's not a palm I'm particularly worried about. It didn't cost me much money. I bought a pot a few years back, reduced, separated them all, and just grew them on. So that's not a money thing. It's not a. That's just an experiment for me. Right, so as expected, most of the other palms are absolutely fine. This one's still tied up. The Washingtonia robusta is loosely tied up, and the fronds are still looking good on that, just thanks to that little overhead protection. So again, -3/4, and we're seeing no damage on that. That's all looking good. A little bit of spotting maybe on some of the older leaves, but in general pretty good. If we get below -3 again, I will be stuck in putting a big fleece bag over that. But in general, all looking pretty good, no concerns. Well, I say no concerns. The only concern really is because it's been so mild that we're starting to get some of the spring bulbs come up, which really shouldn't be coming up for another couple of months. But I'll just finish up. So I just noticed the other day, got a load of alliums down here, and they're all starting to push out now. So the danger is if you do get a really cold patch, that's going to kill off all the new growth and maybe kill the bulbs off, I don't know. I mean, they are tough, but a lot of these bulbs have actually sort of pushed their way out of the soil and just sort of sitting on the top now, which I'm not too concerned about. But yeah, it may well set them back if they get frosted at that point. Now they're starting to grow. Right, before I get distracted with anything else, we'll leave it there. I hope all your plants are doing well. And yeah, if you got any plants over the Christmas period, or a plant for Christmas, or you treated yourself to something that you've been after for a while and decided to splash out, let me know. I did. Check out my other video I've just done. Bought a few plants, one I've been after for a while. You have to check that one out to see what that is. Right, thank you very much for watching. We'll continue with the videos. Like and subscribe. We'll catch you on the next one.